Welcome to Monster Chats, presented by Monster VoIP, where we share the tools, methods, and best practices that business leaders use to build new connections, strengthen relationships, and impact sales in organizations of all shapes and sizes. If you have any questions that come up during today's episode, please text them to 424-378-6966. Please welcome the founder of Monster VoIP, your host, Colin Mitchell.
All right, on today's episode, I'm going to be talking with Mick White of 100-Year Manifesto. Mick and I are going to be talking about fatherhood, congruence, purpose, and business alignment for the good. I'm Colin Mitchell, the host of Monster Chats and the founder of Monster VoIP. Mick simply helps entrepreneurs live better lives. Mick, welcome to Monster Chats. How you doing?
Great, thanks, Colin. Honored to be on the show.
Awesome. I love your bio, short and sweet to the point.
It's just really about living better lives. I think it's what most people want, like somehow help out other people do better. Mm-hmm. And it can mean a lot of different things, but yeah, I think a lot can fall under that, whether it's being a better father, a better friend, a better son, a better business owner, whatever that looks like, maybe just being in better shape, like how to help them be better.
I love that. So before we jump in, just tell us a little bit about your journey, kind of where, your entrepreneur bug got started, where you grew up, kind of just give us your...
Yeah. So I grew up in a rural Illinois. I often say that the part of Illinois that's like Iowa. So think corn and beans, not Chicago. And my father was in the insurance industry since I was about 5-6 years old. He's always been an entrepreneur and just always grew up having a dad who worked a lot and had some flexibility in his schedule to coach and to do stuff, but also wore a suit, and a lot of people respected him. And I saw how he was admired in the community. So I was kind of the household. We grew up and I have 2 older sisters, and my mom worked for my father in his office. And then I went to college to be a high school history teacher and realized that wasn't my space, and ended up starting in my father's insurance office right out of college, and was there for about 10 years, moved to the Twin Cities in Minnesota to see if it's one thing to be successful in the town you grew up in a small rural town where everybody knows you. Mm-hmm. It's another thing to go be successful in a place where nobody knows you. So I moved to Minnesota to see if I could be successful somewhere else, with intentions to move back to Illinois as fast as I could. And then I met this girl. And 14 years later, I'm in Minnesota. Through that time, so I was a fairly traditional financial advisor for about 15 to 18 years, maybe a little bit less than that on the traditional side. And in 2011, June 13th, 2011, my mom passed away from an accidental overdose on aspirin. And she was 58 years old, and she was there one day and just not there the next. And so when someone dies, and you have a visitation a few days later, so there we are, like trying to process everything. And mom's visitation was supposed to start at 5 o'clock. And at 3 o'clock, people started showing up. And at 10 o'clock, the last person showed up. It was 7 hours long. And my mom, God bless her, was a grocery store clerk and a secretary professionally. That was her profession. She had this impact on people, this impact of love, that people just kept showing up for 7 hours. And so it really changed and opened my eyes to what legacy means from an industry that talks around legacy, around who gets what stuff. What money, what house, what the farm, the business, to this impact of love. And that summer, I was engaged and going through a lot of things that I thought about how someone like my mom could have such an impact. But if she could have been an entrepreneur and have some business success, that person could even have a greater impact. So really transformed the conversations I was having with people and how I transitioned my business from there. But that was coming up on 9 years, and it seems like 1,000 years ago sometimes, and other times seems like just yesterday.
Were you blown away at how many people your mom had impacted?
In a small town, you think you know everybody. And then people are showing up like, your mom and I in junior high did this. And they would say, your mom made a blanket for me, or your mom would give me a ride. I'm just like, who are all these people? And they were just small acts of love that she did day in and day out, because that's who she was. She just loved people and wanted to help out as much as she could, no matter where they were in life. So there were CEOs of Fortune 500 companies there, and there were people from the AA hall, and people from grade school, and people that she had just met a couple months previously. So it was quite it was truly overwhelming to see that.
And then how long did that kind of get you thinking into like really wanting to change how you viewed entrepreneurship and wanting to be more impactful in your business life?
That set me down a path of reading a lot of books. Be careful what questions you ask, and be careful what books you read, right? Because it can take you down a path. Through a bunch of book conversations I had, it was in about 2014 when my wife at the time, my son's mom, asked me the question. She said, what if we moved to Korea for a year? She's Korean. She's like, what if we moved to Korea for a year? And at that time, I'm like, I can't do that. Like, my business wasn't set up to do it from anywhere in the world. And about a year later, a lot of things changed in our lives. And it really became apparent that what people didn't have was a framework for success. Like, what does success look like as a business owner, but also as a dad or a spouse? We have metrics around success for business, but there's an Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies, or a lot of the big cities have, here's your top, fast 50 companies, best places to work. There's not here's the 50 best husbands in the Twin Cities. Here's the 100 best dads in the US. Because if there were, like, a lot of people are like, give me that list. Like, how do I get on that? And you don't get a trophy. Maybe you get a tie or, a trophy on Father's Day, but there's not really metrics around what does it mean to be a great dad? How do you measure success in a relationship? Where professionally in a business, you're like, what's your head count? What's your revenue? What's your growth? What's your month over month? And so really trying to help entrepreneurs frame up, what are they really trying to get out of their life and their business, and how you can mesh those together.
So looking at things from a real whole picture lens, rather than just, the professional life, but trying to look at the professional and the personal life and what roles they play in both, and find the proper balance to be successful in all areas.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think in business, there's so much focused on growth, and at times, so one of my clients, we were at a county fair of all places, and I was with my son and he was with his daughter, and we were talking, and he's 20 plus million in revenue and 100 employees. And I talked about, like, the more time you take off from work, the more it's going to expose any holes that you have in your company. You fix those holes, you make your company better and stronger, and your company becomes less relevant, or you become less relevant in the day-to-day operations of the company. The value of your company goes up. Plus, if you take 6 or 12 weeks off a year, your relationship value with your spouse is going to go up. You're going to be healthier and happier, and you're going to be a better dad. So, and he looked at me and he's like, I've never thought about that before. Like, he's like, I've never heard anybody talk about the better, the more I focus on being a better dad or a better spouse, how that helps me everywhere else. And the converse thought is that if you don't take time off, if you work 70, 80, 90 hours a week, that hustle that gets put out there is, it may not be this week, it may not be this month, it may not be this year, but at some point, some other man is going to go on the vacation with your wife and your kids. And he's going to be happy you worked so hard. And you're going to lose 50% or more of everything you have, and realize that the life that you were building wasn't the right life that you really wanted. And so having some of those hard conversations with people, one of my clients last week, and then he said, he's for his best clients. And so I'm like, how's your wife deal with that? He's like, she doesn't like it very much. She understands. I'm like, well, the reason why she doesn't like it is you have 600 wives. Like, every one of your clients is important. And you're putting them on the same pedestal as you're putting your family. And I know him fairly well. He's like, yeah, I probably should change that, shouldn't I? And I'm like, I'm not telling you what to change. I'm just telling you what you're doing.
Right. So, I mean,
I'm change it. Like that's up to you. It's not my life. It's your life.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like you tell people the things they really don't want to hear or take a look at, right? I mean, those are hard facts to chew on.
It's things that we're just not aware of, right? I don't think there's a lot of great books around growth, and there's a lot of great books on relationships, but there's not really that space for the entrepreneur in life and relationships. And I don't think it's things they don't want to hear. I think it's things that they want to hear, but nobody's telling them.
And I think it's common, because I've even, fallen into this trap myself, where a lot of entrepreneur dads, I have 3 young kids, think that by giving themselves to work and going all in on work and building the business and building the wealth for the family and building a good life for the family, they think that's doing their part of contributing to the family, which it's an important part. But what is being sacrificed by going, putting so much of yourself into the business, or into growing the business, or into starting a new business? And it's easy to stick to what you know and do that, than to, do what's maybe a little uncomfortable, is take a little bit of a step back from the business and spend more of that quality time with your family, with your kids, with your wife.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that has to do even how we frame up questions we ask of kids, or maybe we were asked when, my childhood, people ask, I want to be a baseball player, I want to be a race car driver, and I want to be a fireman. Like, those are my 3 things.
Yeah.
None of those happened. But it's all professional attainments. And when you get married, or when you enter into a relationship with somebody, there isn't conversations around, hey, Colin, like, are you going to sacrifice your business potential for our family? Like, that isn't, like, somehow we try to fit our family into our business, or our personal life into our business, rather than saying, like, I want to, people will ask me, how do you find time for your kids with all your business success? And my response is, you're asking me the wrong question. You should ask me, how do I find time for business with all the success with my kids and all the time spent with them? So really trying to reposition, like, what are we trying to accomplish? And again, around those metrics of having healthy conversations with spouses or with kids around, like, what do you really want? They don't care what you make. They don't care if it's a brand new car or if it's a 10-year-old car. Like, they want you not your business success. And at the end of the day, kind of like the game of Monopoly, you can collect all the houses and hotels and properties and money, and one by one, the players leave the game. And even if you win, at the end of the game, it all goes back in the box, right? Like it wasn't actually about winning.
And
right?
You're by yourself.
And you made everybody mad. Yeah,
and you're by yourself.
Your family, whoever you just played with doesn't like you, and you're by yourself. And so really trying to like the beauty of Monopoly is playing the game with friends and having fun along the way, not trying to win the game of Monopoly or the game of life. It's the time together. So yeah. And kids, especially young kids, I have 3 little ones, they don't need a lot. They just small things matter, Right.
I have a perfect example. My son had to go to the doctor's today, and the last time that my daughter had to go to the doctor for her checkup, my son got to come to my office for hour and a half and just hang out. And ever since she knew he had to go to the doctor, she's been so excited to come to my office just to sit here and just see what I do. And she went on a couple of Zoom calls with me, and it was just 90 minutes of her here, and it meant the world to her. They're typically so excited on the weekend because I'm home, right? And I'm there with the family, and I don't have to go to work. They love that. They look forward to that. And the weekend, she couldn't wait for Monday to come because she just couldn't wait to come spend that 90 minutes with me at the office.
Right.
And it's those small things, It doesn't require, a lot sometimes. It's just, going home 30 minutes early on a Friday and surprising them, or, being home at a certain time every day so that there's that consistency, things like that, mean a lot to kids.
Yeah. And oftentimes I can fill a to-do list. I can fill my day with a to-do list of things that may or may not be really important, but I'm doing stuff and I feel good about checking things off. And my thought is always like, if one of your kids right now had a broken arm, you would leave work early today and go take care of it. And we think that, I need to work. But the reality is, man, if we really were hyper focused on business, there would be a lot of things we wouldn't do all day. If we said, like, if I can get home by 2:00, it's that adage around like how much work you get done before you go on vacation. If we had that same level of focus all day, every day. One day I was in counseling, and I'm very much a person who's like, let's have the best day ever. Let's have the best vacation ever. Let's have the best meeting ever. Like whatever we're doing, I just want it to be great. And so I'll fall into a trap at times where after school, I pick up my son from school. He just finished up pre-K at a Korean immersion school. I'll pick him up at 2:30, and then I'll think we can go to a park, and then we'll go to the science museum. Then I'll cook you dinner. We'll read 2 books. We'll play Legos. We'll take a bath. We'll sing some songs. We'll pray, and then we'll go to bed. And instead, what happens? We come home. We watch 6 hours of Paw Patrol. We eat pizza rolls while sitting on the couch. And I said that to my counselor, and he's like, well, where was your son during all of this? I'm like, oh, he was tucked right underneath my arm. Like the whole time he was right next to me. And my counselor, it's why he's a counselor and I'm not. He's like, sounds like a pretty great night to me. like it was the time together that my son loved, not how much we accomplished all the stuff we did. And he did. He loved it. And it was a great night. 6 hours of Paw Patrol is a bit much for me. Like 4 hours is kind of my max. But it was time together. And that's what was important for us.
Yeah. No, I love that. It's awesome. Just thank you so much for coming on the show. I think these are some really important things. I think you got enough here maybe to write that book that people are missing of, really the congruence of and the balance and alignment of, being a parent and entrepreneur.
Yeah, we're getting ready to roll out some stuff, hopefully this summer. Instead of a book, more of a digital platform, a playbook with some videos that people can kind of work through what their purpose is, what they're trying to do, and to really figure out, like, why am I here and what am I trying to accomplish with my life? Because it goes fast, right? So I appreciate you having me on here and for our time together. And the world, just what I know of you and as a father and a husband and a businessman, like, the world's a better place because of you and what you're doing with your business, with the podcast is you're doing a lot of good for a lot of people.
Awesome. I appreciate it. And just before I let you go, tell people where they can find you online, where they can connect with you, where they can find out more about the things that you're doing.
Yeah. So you can find me on 100 Year Manifesto, 100 Year Manifesto.com. You can find me on Instagram at Mick White 75 or Twitter at Mick White 7. You can track me down on LinkedIn. There's not too many Mick Whites who are ugly and bald. So I'm that guy.
Awesome, Mick. Thanks so much. If you're listening to the podcast, please subscribe, share with your friends, and we're open to hearing your feedback. The show is all about you.
Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Monster Chats, presented by Monster VoIP, where we share the tools, methods, and best practices that business leaders use to build new connections, strengthen relationships, and impact sales in organizations of all shapes and sizes. If you have any questions from today's show and want to reach us directly, please text your question to 424-378-6966.